into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
Claims to the alleged burglary, which this law enforcement officer actually put down in his report is a trespass. And now, just for explanation, burglary is trespass plus. So like trespassing to someone's home and stealing inside, or trespassing to someone's home and committing a felony therein. So calling it just a simple trespass suggested that he did not see any evidence of a further crime inside. But he did go inside, ask questions, ask follow-up as to who he should contact. Capricorn Clark was someone he's supposed to follow up with. Cassie Ventura was someone he's supposed to follow up with. But according to him, even though he reached out multiple times, they did not get back to him. And it seemed like he only started reaching out to women after he found there was female DNA on the crime scene, specifically that Molotov cocktail. But that information never really got out through cross-examination, just the insinuation of it.
Okay, so that arson investigator, let's talk about him and the evidence that he potentially found. What did he find?
A lot. Okay, so we've already saw some of the photos of the damage to Kid Cudi's Porsche 911, but we also saw evidence of a lighter that was left not too far from the vehicle, as well as this container and the bottle of malt liquor that was, you can zoom in, you can really see how much gasoline was still in there that the arson expert said that he can smell, but also tested and confirmed. And then, of course, you have like this silk kind of fabric here that we believe was inside of this Molotov cocktail, fell out, was damaged in many ways. They called it a designer piece of silk, and that's why it kind of fell apart. And we don't see the damage you typically see from a Molotov cocktail that firebombs a place. But these evidence were collected and shown to the jury as to how this investigation rolled out for the arsonist.
A designer piece of silk?
Yeah, he was able to say that because of this portion here that's not burnt, you can see that one was like silky and very soft, and also the design on it. The investigator kept calling it a designer piece of silk, which at least in my mind, I'm like, okay, so who would have a designer piece of silk that you might use a Molotov cocktail? When they were talking about the bottle, I was shocked that it was malt liquor and not another bottle that might be signature to Sean Combs, but they tried to insinuate that maybe designer had something to do with who did it.
Okay, let's talk about that black glove. I asked Aaron about this as well. It was found in the car. Is that important?
So I think when it comes to the defense's case, there's not going to be one piece of evidence that you're going to say, you know what, this black glove is the reason why you must acquit. It's not that kind of case. But it was a small piece of evidence where they were trying to insinuate that the person who threw the Molotov cocktail inside of this car might have been using that black glove to protect themselves, and that the investigator should have investigated, should have seen what the DNA was, instead of simply taking the word of Kid Cudi to say that a single glove, because they couldn't find the other one, was his, and they should not test it or check it, saying that the alleged victim here is directing the investigation and not the people who are investigating the case.
Brian Buckmeyer, always so good to have you break this down for us. Thank you so much. Well, the show is called Burden of Proof, and that burden, well, it rests on the prosecution. And here's the superseding indictment that they brought against Sean Combs. The very first count Diddy is facing, racketeering conspiracy. The indictment accused Combs of creating a criminal enterprise with members and associates engaging in crimes like sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. But what exactly racketeering conspiracy? To break it all down for us, I want to bring in Michael Bachner. He's a criminal defense attorney here in New York City who is not involved in this case. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. Okay, so Combs has denied the accusations, pleaded not guilty, but help us understand exactly what he's accused of. What is racketeering conspiracy?
So the Racketeering Act, also known as RICO, came about in 1970 and was really established to fight organized crime, but it's been morphed into prosecuting people in gangs, in legitimate businesses, etc. So basically the government's got to prove that there was an enterprise. The enterprise is a partnership, a corporation, a group of people acting together like a gang. And that can be an enterprise. They then have to show that there was a pattern of activity. So that pattern could be that they have to demonstrate that 2 predicate acts were committed during the course of a 10-year period of time. Those predicate acts can be the bribery that's been alleged that occurred with Mr. Flores. It could be the arson. It could be the burglary. They've alleged particular patterns of conduct in the indictment. Then they have to show there's something called continuity. Continuity means that these are patterns of conduct that occurred over a prolonged period of time. They didn't just occur in a week or 2 weeks or a month, but that there's a fear that this type of conduct will continue into the future. And then they have to show, of course, that the defendant, that is Mr. Combs, that there was a hierarchy, a structure involved, and that Mr. Combs either ran it or participated in it along with other conspirators. And contrary to what people believe, you don't have to name the other conspirators in the indictment by name. You don't have to charge them. You just have to allege that they existed and call them as witnesses or produce evidence that there was more than one person, that is Combs and one other person at least.
Okay, you mentioned it, but we keep hearing this term RICO in this case. What exactly is that? How tough is it to get a RICO conviction on something like this?
So RICO, this Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, it's a tough of charge to prove, basically because it's kind of complicated. The jury's going to get the law from the judge, and the judge is going to say, ladies and gentlemen, to convict Mr. Combs, you have to find, first of all, there was this Combs enterprise. That is, there was a hierarchy, a structure that Mr. Combs ran, was part of, etc. Then you're going to have to show that there was this pattern of activity. You're going to have to find that he at least committed or was involved in or directed the commission of an arson, a burglary, the bribery, the sex trafficking, some of the acts alleged in the indictment, which the judge will instruct the jury on. And then he's going to say that you must find this continuity purpose. And they're also, of course, going to have to show that Combs was involved in the conspiracy, that it was an actual agreement that he had. It doesn't have to be in writing. It doesn't have to be, written in blood. It's got to be an agreement, an understanding, even informal, with at least one other person, that this is how the structure of the organization would be running. And the organization can be a legitimate organization, but has illegitimate goals. And the government is alleging that this was a structured community that Combs ran, that people abided by his wishes. He directed that the abuse occur. He directed that these freak-offs occur, that people cleaned up for him, that people bribed for him, that people committed arson for him, they burglarized for him, all in support of the organization. It can't just be random, unrelated acts. They have to be related conduct, these predicate acts. And the government's alleging all of this stuff together was in order for Combs to maintain his hierarchy, to maintain the enterprise.
And the prosecution's still presenting their case, but when Combs's team gets up there to present his defense, how do you defend a case like this?
Well, I was one of the lawyers in Combs's first case in 2001, representing a co-defendant in the case, and we were lucky not to have to deal with this type of RICO issue. But the defense is kind of the same. They're going to be alleging that the Combs's abuse, which they admitted on their opening statement existed, was domestic in nature. This is just a horrible way that he behaved. He's a bad guy. He's a creep, all of those things. But they're going to have to try and show that the acts were consensual, that there was no pattern, no conduct, and no hierarchy, and Combs was not directing this conduct.
Michael Bachner, thank you so much for being with us. Still ahead, the legal strategy behind the defense's request for a mistrial and why the judge may have denied it. Also ahead, will Diddy take the stand? We're answering some of the top questions people are asking about the trial online. Stay with us.
Okay, we are Super T.
Welcome back to ABC News Live. Day 11 of testimony in the Sean Diddy.
Days 10 to 12. Thank you guys so much. Remember, when you come in, get your teacup filled up and like and subscribe.
Combs trial, a celebrity stylist to a Los Angeles Fire Department arson investigator, all taking the stand. Let's get right into breaking down the key legal strategies that we saw playing out in court. Brian Buckmeyer playing the defense, Bernarda Villalona playing prosecutor. Brian, let's start with you. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. The fingerprint evidence from the break-in at Kid Cudi's house. It caused a whole thing in court today. Why did that cause such a stir?
Because the insinuation that the defense made that the government was attempting to do, that there were fingerprints Clearly, no one knew who they connected with that were on the glass of the Kid Cudi's home, and also that we just heard that there were fingerprints on the Porsche 911. It was insinuated that at some point in time they were going to cross-reference them and see who it was. You know, Sean Combs was accused of burglarizing Kid Cudi's home, and then it got to the point of like, okay, it's destroyed. How do these people get destroyed? And it kept going and going and going to the point it's like, where are you trying to land this plane? And when they got to the point of asking, is it unusual for these to be destroyed? That's when the defense jumped up and said, we can see where you're trying to land this plane, and that's improper. And that's why they brought up the mistrial. And I think whenever you have an opportunity to argue mistrial, you do it, because you don't know if it's going to work in this trial or on appeal. We've seen cases like the Rust case with Alec Baldwin, where a mistrial argument actually led to a dismissal. That's what they're hoping for. It doesn't always happen, but you make the argument anyways.
Where were they trying to land the plane?
I don't know.
So for the prosecution, when you see something like this happen, does this worry you at all that this could come back to haunt you later?
Yes, but usually when you're the prosecutor and you're the person that's trying the case, your goal is to get the conviction and let someone else deal with the appeal. But I would say I was in a courtroom when this happened, and literally there were gasps in the air in the sense of that the person I was sitting next, we started looking at each other, and we were looking at the jury. In terms of the defense asked for a mistrial, but that was later on, not in the presence of the jury. But it was clear from how the questions were going that the insinuation was that someone in Diddy's camp was responsible for getting rid of those fingerprint cards, especially when you take into account Capricorn Clark had testified that she had this conversation with Harv Pierre, who's in the defense's camp, shortly before she got fired, which was around the time of when this fingerprint card disappeared. Oh. So huge concern for the prosecution, but this prosecution is not thinking about it because their goal is to get a conviction, not to worry about the appeal.
All right, the credibility of the arson investigator also seemed to be something the defense was sort of trying to make an issue today. Why? What was the issue here?
Well, this is how it works when it comes to credibility. If you don't have the facts, you argue the law. If you don't have the law or the facts, you argue credibility. And when it comes to this investigation, you're trying to say this investigation was steered by Kid Cudi. There is clearly a black glove inside of that car. It's the crime scene. Why would you not test it? What, because the person told you not to test it? That's not how law enforcement operates. Now, are you making a mountain out of a molehill? Absolutely. But this is why we put on become defense attorneys, because sometimes those mountains do get acquittals. And so you're going to try to get that one person on the jury to be like, you know what? Yeah, they should have checked that glove. And because they did it, I'm not quite sure of this predicate act. And that's how you try to walk your way to an acquittal.
Your response?
So in terms of the glove, I wasn't concerned about it because during redirect, the prosecution immediately went and asked this investigator, was like, look, is there a reason why you didn't find that the glove was of importance? And the investigator was like, of course, because the owner of the car said it's my glove. Obviously, he didn't set his own car on fire.
How is that obvious unless you test the glove?
It's his glove. He's not going to burn his own car, an entire investigation, so it's not relevant to the investigation.
No one's ever burned their own property before in the whole history of
Okay. All right, let's move on to this next issue. The celebrity stylist that took the stand, he said he heard Combs tell Ventura, quote, he would beat her. If you're defense, you hear him say that, what are you thinking?
I think similar to what we saw in other witnesses, you avoid that conversation and you try to go somewhere else. Because I think when it comes to Deontay Nash, he was a phenomenal witness for the government in trying to show coercion and control and the assault. I mean, when they're talking about Cassie hearing that Sean Combs is downstairs and trying to jump off of a balcony, you try to avoid that and you try to focus on other issues of this case where you're going to try to.
And that's where I'm going to stop it right there. Like, I can't wait to get to the end. So Diddy was controlling who? Hitman, drug mules. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Look, like, think of the syndicate of a mob family. There are top level generals. There's killers, hitmen. You know what I'm saying? There are levels to everybody. I did not say Siri. I said serious. Okay. My Siri came on. Anyway, okay, there's levels to that. Oh my God, Diddy's a mob boss. He was controlling his stylist, his personal assistant. Like, come on. It's not like y'all are saying, okay, he had high-level ranking general. He had a low-level ranking general. He had a hitman. He had, these people over here. They were laundering money through this business. Sean John, Garigio, Ciroc. Okay, they were laundering money. They were using that as a way to wash the money. You know what I'm saying? Those are drug trafficking things that you do when you're a drug trafficker. Because he was controlling his assistant and she let him, or he let him. You see what I'm saying? Like, okay. Y'all are putting yourselves in compromising situations and then mad when you get blackmailed. Okay.
Paint the relationship with Cassie and Sean Combs as toxic, equally using drugs. You're going to try to continue down that path of these are two individuals who are in the thralls of drug abuse and domestic violence, and this isn't trafficking, this is domestic violence. You try to pivot how you're going to talk about that conversation.
How does Deontay Nash help the prosecution?
Deontay Nash played a crucial part in the prosecution's case today, and Deontay Nash was number one able to.
I think he played into what the prosecution are trying to show reasons why Diddy should be federally indicted. But I don't think that they've quite hit the ball out of the park yet. I don't hear it. He's somewhere controlling his personal assistant and the hairstylist. Did you see the fucking hairstylist get out of the van? That is a whole, and I'm not saying homosexuals can't be gangster, but when was the last time you saw one in a mob family? The mob don't even fuck with homosexuals. If you're a homosexual in a mob family, you probably get killed. Okay, so not for nothing, like, fuck out of here with this shit. And they better hope Diddy doesn't get off. If he does, I think he's gonna sue the state of New York and shit. I think he's gonna sue him. Probably the police, SWAT that raided all his houses and all this shit. Like, if Diddy say he completely walks, I think he's gonna sue.
Corroborate the violence. Number two, corroborate the control that Sean Combs had over her career. But number three, also corroborated
y'all like, oh my God, he was controlling her career. That's like if y'all work at a regular 9-to-5 job and you never get a raise and you never get promoted, but you stay sitting there working that same 9-to-5 job and you never walk away, and your boss tells you you're never going to find a better job. You're going to sit your ass down, get your ass together and work this goddamn job, and you take it. And it looks like he's controlling your narrative, but you never fucking walk away. Whose fault is that? Diddy's not the only music producer in the world. Cassie was a beautiful talent. So you mean to tell me no other producer, just because if Diddy, even if Diddy would have been like, nah, don't fuck with her, you don't think Jermaine Dupri might have signed her? Or whoever? Still, no matter what, Cassie was in control of her own fucking destiny in that moment with Diddy. I think she built it up, play by play, for her to sue Diddy for the excessive amount of money that she did to live happily ever after with her personal trainer, and that's exactly what she's doing.
Is that for the first time you're hearing that Cassie had told someone that, look, I did not want to participate in the freak-offs. I did not want to go to the hotel. So instead of the jury trying to infer that that's what she felt and didn't want to participate in the freak-offs.
Why didn't she get out and leave? Oh, it wasn't that easy for her. I mean, if Diddy wasn't somewhere breaking her legs, it only sounded like Diddy was like abusing her in the confinements of certain places. He wasn't like hitting her all upside the head walking down the street. I mean, if you're really being ex-trafficked and you're walking down the street with your ex-trafficker, you flag a police like, oh my God, you try to alert somebody. Like, help me. This person, I'm under duress. I'm being kidnapped. I'm being ex-trafficked. You slip somebody a note. you give signs like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Like this is not where I need to be standing right now. You blink twice if you okay. Cassie was walking down the street with her head held high in Diddy's arms, all on the red fucking carpet, girl. Quit it.
Now you have it coming out of her own mouth while it's taking place. She's telling someone else. And Deontay Nash came off very credible. But I want to spin off to another question that was asked of Deontay Nash.
Was she abused? Yeah. Did he knock her upside her head and put his foot in her ass? Yes. Yes. And it's unfortunate nobody cared. Deontay tried to care. Capricorn Clark tried to care. Unfortunately, it didn't reach anybody until Cassie herself walked away, right? And filed a lawsuit against him. And now she's the key witness in his ex-trafficking trial and all this shit.
Was asked to in cross-examination, and which was a bombshell for the defense. When asked whether Deontay Nash, whether he was an employee of the enterprise, yes. He got paid by Bad Boy, yes. Did you participate in any criminal activity under Mr. Combs? Yes. Huge bombshell, because now you have the criminal enterprise and people acting and committing crimes. What
enterprise though? I mean, hell, I ran a red light a couple weeks ago. I got a traffic ticket in the mail. Was I running red lights because I was being a drug mule for Diddy? Fuck no. But I still committed an offense punishable by paying a ticket. What crimes did they do for Diddy that's, you know what I'm saying, RICO level? What? Now, they might have been state level crimes, but they're not, like we keep having to go back to. They didn't charge Diddy in the state. They're charging him in the federal court. So let's bring up some federal type shit here.
Criminal enterprise. They weren't expecting that answer.
Did they say what he did? Did he say?
No, they moved on fast from it because that is a bombshell. They asked the question that they didn't know the answer to. That Cassie had told someone that, look, I did not want to participate in the freak-offs. I did not want to go to the hotel. So instead of the jury trying to infer that that's what she felt and didn't want to participate in this freak-offs, now you have it coming out of her own mouth while it's taking place. She's telling someone else. And Deontay Nash came off very credible. But I want to spin off to another question that was asked of Deontay Nash, that was asked to in cross-examination, and which was a bombshell for the defense. When asked whether Deontay Nash, whether he was an employee of the enterprise, yes. He got paid by Bad Boy, yes. Did you participate in any criminal activity under Mr. Combs? Yes. Huge bombshell.
Okay, but what? What are the crimes? He could have been fucking jaywalking across the street. What's the crime? Trying to hurry up and get Diddy one of them motherfucking Manhattan pies that nigga be eating. That he had the making of the band stars trying to go get. They had to walk a country mile across New York City to go get that shit. What was the fucking crime? There's petty crimes, and then there's high-level crimes. What are they? So what? He said he committed crimes while he worked for Bad Boy Enterprises. A lot of us have done crimes while we worked our fucking job. Was it enough to go to get you a RICO? What you got going on? You see what I'm saying? So what are the crimes? So what he said that shit, that wasn't no bombshell for the defense. What were the fucking crimes that he committed while working for Bad Boy? Because if it wasn't to the level of a RICO charge, what are we talking about?
Because now you have the criminal enterprise and people acting and committing crimes under that.
What is it? What are the levels that you're on? If it was somewhere like, oh, okay, Diddy, I don't know. He had me go down there and, you know what I'm saying, extort somebody out of some money because Diddy felt like he owed them money. And if they didn't give it to me, I was going to break their leg. Now, that's something you can start looking at. Oh, okay. Yeah, Diddy might have been RICOing. But if it's some bullshit, you know what I'm saying? Like some low-level petty drug crimes or something. Did he have me go pick up a couple of ounces or something for a freak-off? That's not RICO. That you can maybe try to indict somebody on a state charge, but On a RICO, you got to start getting up into the kilograms and tons to fuck with RICO charges. Like, what are the crimes? Was he somebody that actually transported people across state lines against their will? And Diddy made him do that? Then that's the X trafficking. But if he drove to go pick up a prostitute because Diddy said, go pick that hoe up over there, she's coming with me tonight, we finna have a freak off, where's the crime? Other than he paid for a prostitute. Like, what are y'all saying? Where's the crime?
What criminal enterprise? They weren't expecting
anybody
that.
Can say that shit. I can say a lot of shit. Anybody can say any goddamn thing. That doesn't make it true. And it doesn't make it to the level of whatever y'all are trying to persecute somebody to that extent of. What's the fucking crime? I want to know what the crime is. Maybe it is a RICO, but y'all ain't said nothing.
Answer.
Did they say what he did?
Thank you.
They moved on fast.
Hello. Did they say what it was?
That's from it because that is a bombshell. They asked the question.
What's the bombshell? If you don't drop the bomb, how you gonna drop Diddy in jail? How? The bomb is when you actually put that nigga in. That's the boom. If you don't fucking say what it is, then it's nothing.
That
you have nothing to think about because there's nothing to go on.
The answer to.
Which is a cardinal sin for any defense attorney. If you don't know the answer, don't ask a question because you get stuff like that could bury your case.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Brian Buckmeyer.
Why? What do you mean? If he was to say, okay, Diddy made me do XYZ, say it was the level of a RICO, prove it. Prove that Diddy made you, as a part of this syndicate, underground enterprise of a RICO charge, made you do things like this. Show us the fucking proof of what that looks like. You can say anything out of your mouth, but where's the proof at? That would have been the boom for the defense to be like, told you y'all didn't have shit that nobody can substantiate and put no evidence on it, that Diddy did these things that y'all are trying to say to put him in fucking federal prison.
I want to thank you both for being with us. Coming up, will Diddy take the stand? We're answering some of the top questions people are asking about the trial online when we come back.
Okay, so we got Georgie Murray on Kick saying, I love your Kick channel already. You got a few engagers and followers. Keep up the good work. Contact me if you want to collab. I'll think about it, Georgie. Thank you for chatting and becoming a sipper. Make sure you go over there and follow me on Kick, okay? So where are we with this, y'all? I also wanted to throw in here while we are just, catching up on day 10 through 12. Diddy's daughters graduated from high school. So between all the myths of him and everything else that is going on, they graduated from high school. Okay, that is a big accomplishment, especially considering what they've been under this past year. But yes, they did graduate from high school. We're going to tap in, take a look at what that looked like for Diddy's daughters during their graduation of 2025.
Jesse Combs. Delilah Combs.
A major milestone for the Combs twins,
Diddy's
their
daughters.
high school graduates.
We are so proud. You guys don't understand because this is
Graduating from high school this year amongst the Diddy trial. Okay, They are graduating high school while their dad's in prison, or not prison yet, or hopefully, you know, if he's not found convicted, then he won't go to prison. Whatever. Amongst all this mess that Diddy's doing, okay?
It's a big deal.
Jesse and Delilah's friends and fam capturing the moment on Instagram, all to celebrate their achievement. Now, this all comes amid their dad, Sean Diddy Combs' ongoing sex trafficking and racketeering trial.
We know that Sean Combs' twin daughters were having their prom celebration this weekend. Now, as we're in week 2, not the same presence. There are a few people that are obviously there in support of Combs.
After being courthouse fixtures week 1, the girls sat out week 2 to wrap up their senior year on the West Coast, as Diddy maintains his innocence back east.
With each witness, we get a better understanding and picture of what the prosecution is saying, because, you know, these are their witnesses that they're calling, but the defense always has this opportunity to sow doubt into the credibility of each person, or just try to make a case, obviously, for Sean Combs. So it becomes this sort of back and forth, and the details some days are very interesting, fascinating, and honestly sometimes hard to even report on, but I think we just are all waiting to see where is this going? You know, and I hear a lot of people commenting, where's the sex trafficking? Where's the racketeering? And when you hear that a trial is going to last this long, 6 to 8 weeks, it's going to be a bit of a slow, you know, road to the very end.
Right. That was Diddy's daughters, Delilah, and the other one, I don't remember her name, so sorry. They're twins. Diddy's twin girls graduated from high school this year, 2025.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay dipping.